The best way to test if your idea is going to fly is to try to sell it to customers. By doing that, you create what we call a minimum viable product, or an MVP. This is the simplest thing you can produce about your product or service that you can now go to the market to try to sell. We definitely encourage you to try to do this for your social enterprise, but in some instances, it's actually really hard to start a minimum viable product. For most ideas, you'll be able to create this minimum viable product, but for some, this would be impossible. Those are what we call airplane ideas. They're ones where you need a considerable amount of financial investment, research, and partnership in order to make it fly. In those cases, you'll have to move to a full feasibility study, something we won't cover here. And that's something that will take more time and more investment in order for you to complete. But hopefully, you have an idea you can start with a minimum viable product. This will be much more cheap to start, much more efficient, and you'll be able to test and change as you grow so you can meet your customers' demands. Again, your minimum viable product, or MVP, is built just to the right level that your first customers will want to buy. No more, no less. A minimum viable product is the most pared down version of your product that can be released. It has 3 characteristics. It has enough value that people are willing to buy and use it. It demonstrates enough future benefit to retain the early adopters, meaning that people will be happy with the product and will come back to you for more. And it provides a feedback loop to guide future development, meaning if the product does fail, you'll have great feedback and information on how to improve it for the future. The catch to this development technique is that it assumes that early adopters can see your vision or the promise of the final product and be able to provide valuable feedback needed to guide your developers forward. And that's an important thing to think about. Early adopters. Who would be very eager to get the very first version of your product or service, test it, and give you feedback? That will be an important question to address when you think more about your customers in the next video. So why is an MVP so important? Well, it helps you test your social enterprise, which is really just a hypothesis at this point, with minimal investment and resources. You could probably go out and start selling a version of your product or service today. It also helps you accelerate learning. Regardless of how much research you do or how much you talk to other people about your product or service, the only way you're going to know if it's right and if it's going to work is by testing it with real customers. That way, you know what's wrong with your product or service, you can fix it quickly, and you could quickly build the right product or service for your customers. You could spend hours upon hours developing what you think is the perfect product or service, only to find out once you launch it that nobody wants it. You can get your product or service to customers as soon as possible so you can start making money. It can be the base for other products or offshoots of what you're trying to offer. And it can even be helpful for your staff team to help build their abilities and skills in developing the product and service. So how do you build a minimum viable product? Well, it's actually highly dependent on what your social enterprise idea is. It could just be a one-page outline of your training to show to clients or funders. The one-page outline might be all that you need to sell it. Perhaps it's one summer camp that you design, book the venue for, get the catering for, and market for people to attend. Maybe it's a website with just one product on it for sale. Perhaps there's no products yet, and you're just providing information through a blog. And that blog leads people to purchase something in person. Maybe it's going to a farmer's market or a flea market and trying to sell your products there in small batches. Or maybe it's a pitch to an organization to pay you for your services like consulting. Options are endless. You don't have to have the product right away, as you can see in these examples. Once a purchase happens with something as simple as a one-page outline, you can start producing or preparing to provide your product or service.